reduce the lifts and the probabilities. So, yeah, the flatter, the less responsive, the steeper, the more responsive. So, interestingly, private label has the least responsive. And the two premium brands look like they're awfully steep relative to Nabisco looks kind of in the middle there. And we can check those, by the way. We can check them at any point. Okay, so those are the own price effects comparison. What would be nice is to do something like, well, analyze the cross price effects. So we can export that. So cross price effects are again now, it's the same logit, so we don't need to run this again. We shouldn't all run it anyways, but it's the same logit we've been running. So what is this? This is the probability, it's basically the cross price effect of the price of Keebler on outcome 2, which is Nabisco. So we want to see, so we know how Keebler responds to its own price. We want to see how Nabisco responds to a change in the price of Keebler. And this is extremely powerful. I'm in the wrong data set. I closed it. As I was saying, it's extremely powerful. Yeah, that's why I have it set up here to reload it. So what does this say? This says that as the price of Keebler increases, the probability of purchasing Nabisco increases. So it's the cross price effect. And essentially what we want to do is get this, and you're going to close this. Here's the graph we want to be able to reproduce. I'm going to cut to the chase. Static graphs. It's this one right here. This is awesome. The name really doesn't even do it justice. But essentially what this is telling us is, oh my God, I gotta stand up on that thing again. But let's take a look at this first panel. All right,
It's an OSHA approved ladder.
what's that?
It's an OSHA approved ladder.
Yeah, this is perfectly fine. So what do we know? We know the law of demand is going to hold for Keebler. As the price of Keebler increases, the probability of choosing Keebler decreases. But where do those sales go? As the price of Keebler increases, the probability of choosing Keebler decreases. Are those sales going to Sunshine? No, not really. Look at the probability of purchasing Sunshine. As the price of Keebler increases, the probability of purchasing Sunshine barely changes at all. Where those sales go are initially, at least up to a certain point, up to about 75 cents, where those sales go are mostly to Nabisco and private label. So when we're switching from Keebler, we're going to Nabisco and private label. Then again, notice the nonlinearities. Then we start to as price increases, remember the whole point of private label or generic is what? They're cheap, right? But as price increases, we start switching from generic or private label, and that starts to decrease, and we start to buy more Nabisco. So this isn't just telling us, again, we're going to sell, the probability of selling our brand decreases as price increases, that falls into the Doug category. Although that, it's nice to have that visual and it's nice to be able to quantify that, this is telling us where are our sales going? What are people buying when they're not buying our stuff? So as we raise our price, where are those sales going? So it's telling us those, and that's literally the definition of a cross-price effect is how does our price affect the probability of choosing our other brands? Where are they going? We know they're not going to Sunshine, which is interesting. They're going mostly to Nabisco and private label, but then they go mostly to private label. And notice that these things aren't going to be symmetric. In other words, as the price of Keebler increases, yeah, we go mostly to Nabisco. But let's go to Nabisco. As the price of Nabisco increases, where are people going?
To the generic.
To generic, exactly. For the market leader, remember what would they have? 80? What was they had
60?
60%. For the market leader, when we're not buying the market leader, we're either going to Nabisco or generic or private label. Very little effect on the two premium brands, which are Keebler and Sunshine. Again, similar effects for private label. As the price of private label increases, yeah, we're going to buy less private label, but then we're going to switch to mostly to Nabisco, and very little effect going to our two premium brands, really. And again, for Sunshine, law of demand holds. Price of Sunshine increases, the probability of choosing Sunshine decreases. Mostly going to Nabisco, but some going to private label. I would have thought Sunshine and Keebler would have been closer competitors, but they really aren't. Price of Keebler doesn't really have much of an effect on probability of choosing Sunshine, and the price of Sunshine really doesn't have much of an effect on the probability of choosing Keebler. So the two premium brands that have roughly equal market share are not necessarily competing with each other. They're still facing the two biggies, which are Nabisco and generic. That's interesting. I mean, that's, again, getting an insight into how consumers are, how loyal your consumers are, where they're going when they're not coming to you, and kind of the dynamics of this market. So what we want to do is construct this graph. Remember that each one of these is a margins command, and they have to be done one at a time. So that blue graph's one margins plot, one margins and margins plot, just to say one margins. We got to save that margins. We got to run the cross price effect for Nabisco. We got to save that. We got to run the cross price effect for private label, and then we got to run the cross price effect for Sunshine. We got to save those, and then we got to merge them together, just like we did with the own price effects. And eventually, what we want to do, and we're not going to do it this time, because I want to get this graph. If we can construct these graphs, we can do what? Put this in Tableau. And that's going to be really, really cool. Because now we can, again, this is a big chunk of information. And it's a bit overwhelming. So we want to be able to have those filters so that we could limit what's out there and then add on to it bit by bit. So eventually we want to get to Tableau, but if we're able to construct this graph, then the Tableau is simply an export. And then we're going to have to do some little stuff to make it look nice, and I can show you that. But in essence, what we're going to do is what we did with our own price effects. So let's see, where's my margins command? I'm not using my savings. Yeah, here we are. All right. And basically, I run these all at once. So notice I'm picking that same, so I got that first command, margins predict, outcome 1, which is Keebler, and against the price of Keebler. So that's our own price effect. And then all the other ones are the effect of price of Keebler on 2, which is Nabisco, the effective price of Keebler on 3, which is private label, the effective price of Keebler on 4, which is Sunshine. What's that?
I was just saying.
Sunshine, yeah, which is Sunshine. Everything else is the same. So these four margins are that first panel in our graph. Tell me I didn't close it. Yes, no, I did close it. Oh, man, that was such a cool graph. I think I could do that. So those 4 margins represent this graph. Then I want to run 4 margins that represent this graph. And then so I got to combine these 4 margins. Then I want to run 4 margins, combine them into one file. So this is going to be one file of 4 margins. This is going to be one file of 4 margins. This is going to be one file of 4 margins, and this one. But again, these 4 margins are all run across the price of Keebler. Those 4 margins are all run across the price of Nabisco, all across the price of private label, and all across the price of Sunshine. So in essence, again, you're going to do, it really boils down to copy and pasting now. But you got to understand what you're doing, which makes sense. So we set everything equal to 0, like we did before. And notice I call these 1 for the first graph, and then A, B, C, and D. So you got to have some kind of syntax to your, so margins, mlogit 1 for that first graph, and then A is Keebler, B is Nabisco, C is private, D is Sunshine, and those are the cross price effects. So I run all those, and you can check the graph. Once you run the graphs, you'll know whether or not it works or not. And then I open them up. I did what we did before. I open them up, change, remember they're all going to have margins as a prediction. I need to change those to different names because you can't have the same names. You're trying to, you can't have the same names. And then I use the same merge command.
So you open up the first one, and then you rename, and you open up the second one, and you rename.
Before I rename though, I drop the merge.
Oh, right.
So these aren't really, I didn't want to do it so you can just run everything at once, because there is kind of a logic to this. So let's just do this one. And I'm going to have to do these two. All right, so now I can just run these suckers. So these things will run. And I'll get my results. It helps when there's actual data in there. Why doesn't my mlogit command no data? So, yeah. All right, so these are my own and cross price effects. Own is the first, and then the second 3 are cross price effects. Those will run. And then I need to open them up one by one. And that's what I'm doing here. I can't open this. Chuck. Who won the game? Leave that a score. All right, done. So let's open up the first one. This is the own price effect. And we know margins is our prediction, underscore margin is our prediction for Keebler, and at 3 is our price of Keebler, so as long as we know what is what, we're fine. What I want to do is, so that's why this is kind of, I want to rename my margins P Keebler, and I need to save it. I don't have that saved. Nope. So I got to do that here. Boom. All right, so I just saved it. I'm going to do that for this one. This is a cross price effect. I'm going to rename that P Nabisco. Save it here. Maybe I could have done this all in one, but I wanted to show it. And this one, I know it's private. Save. Open the final one. I know that's Sunshine. Save my results. All right, so I've got 4 different margins. I changed the names of the margins, so now I just need to merge them. I've got the last one open, so I'm just gonna, and again, it doesn't matter the order. I just did it in reverse alphabetical open because I have D open right now. So I'm gonna go CB. I get all those nice zeros on my not matched and my 201 observations for my matched. I could save this under a new name, but I want to run this first. Let's make sure it works. So this should be that first panel of our graph. Yes. Save it. Here's a data set. Save it under whatever name. And so these are, again, these are the own and cross price effects of Keebler on itself and on the other brands. Then I'm going to do the own and cross price effects for Nabisco on itself and the other brands. Because again, this is an awesome visual on not just what happens as I raise my price. I'm going to sell less. But again, where are those sales going? Who are my main competitors? From this, I know that Sunshine isn't a competitor. I don't need to worry about Sunshine. My 2 big competitors are Nabisco and generic strawberry crackers. That's pretty cool stuff. It's pretty powerful stuff. I mean, think about getting that for any other product. Wine. And wine's going to have a lot more products, so you can think of this as getting pretty nasty. So when we generate this graph, essentially what we can do is, notice I did this save, name, graph 1, replace, and we can save these in graph combine. Have we used graph combine? Yeah, so basically you just name them, graph 1, graph 2, graph 3, graph 4, and then the graph combine, it's not going to work because I haven't done all of them. Graph combine is the least of our problems. Where is it? When we're done with the final one, yeah, so here's graph combine. That's it, combine 1, 2, 3, and 4. Y common means has use a common y-axis, and X common means use a common x-axis. And you get that four-panel graph. You get, that's literally what you're going to use for the four-panel graph. So the key is to take this insanely complicated model and be able to understand the own price effects, how our price affects our product, and then understand how our price affects other products and how their prices affect our product. So all of these in those four graphs, which will simplify in Tableau so that we don't have all of that hitting us at once. We'll have it emoji. Look at that. This is pretty cool. It's not even set up right. It needs to be formatted a little bit better. I screwed it up. But what we can do now is look at these cross price effects. Boom. So now we don't have all of it overwhelming us. Like I said, we can understand the law of demand. There's the law of demand. And if we want to now understand the cross price effects, this is what happens when, these are where our sales are going, right? As our price. So again, we know we're going to lose, Keebler's going to lose sales as its price increases, but where are those prices going? And some of them are going to Nabisco, some of them are going to private label, and again I need to fix this because it's not optimized for this screen. I just screwed it up. But, and we saw that it's not going much to the other ones. And again, we can do this with some of these other ones. So we'll work on the Tableau spreadsheet. And this takes not that much of an effort, but we're going to have to export everything into Tableau. And this is really cool. I did basically a presentation, this presentation for the American Marketing Association on, it was called Going from Advanced Analytics to Data Visualization. And they literally said it was one of the best they've ever seen. Mostly because I went through those outputs from our multinomial logic. Like, this is what the output looks like. It's extremely complicated, and we need to be able to go from that to this. And that was a big deal that a lot of people had never seen or done before. So, yeah, anytime we can make something complicated look easy, or at least useful, we've done our job. Any questions? Does this look similar to what we did last time? Margins, it's really all about the margins. Saving margins, either pending margins or merging margins. Here, today we're using merge. And you kind of saw the commands. It's repetitive. Once you get the first one down, the second one is going to be pretty similar. And again, check out, before you're done, run your graph and make sure, this one won't work, but run your graph and make sure it's coming out right. If your graph looks right, your data set's right. It's good to go. Alrighty. On top of that, have a nice Thanksgiving.